Hello, dear friends. Ken Graves here with God's Sword. A good weekend. I enjoyed the fellowship of the believers at Calvary Chapel, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. They did a building dedication sort of ceremony, and I was honored that they invited me to come. Their pastor, Pastor Dan Shunk, was once a baby Christian here at Calvary in Central Maine. Hard to believe. So many years have passed. And Dan has turned into a great Bible teacher. It was a good time. I missed the flock of God at home. Home late last night, and for me it's Monday. I don't know when you're watching today's teaching. Final day of March here, March 31st. It is very rainy, very muddy. We made great progress on the old homestead. Here at my feet is a very muddy, very, very muddy dog. And who's also bored. He's bored and muddy. He's much larger than he appears in that from that angle. Great gains here. Building the great room here, boarding the ceiling all up, shiplap, made some great gains on the walls, insulating. The Lord really provided for me. A warehouse that had massive office space in one end of it is being renovated, and all of the insulation that I need, all of it, as far as I can tell, for this whole project was on its way to the dumpster. It was all torn out, all R38 fiberglass in great shape, and I, Ken Graves, recognize the providence of God. One man's debris is another man's insulation. Saved me thousands, man. When the Lord does that, I like it more than when he gives me the thousands. When he saves me the thousands. So we've been installing insulation today, and closing up walls. It's been a good day. Now we come to the final chapter, the 14th chapter of Zechariah's prophecy, and it is beautiful. It's beautiful, it is majestic. Consider all that Zechariah has already said to us about the coming of Messiah. Think about that, about the glory that will be, and how the Lord will reveal himself to his people. They will, see his wounds, and they will inquire. They will ask him, where did you receive these wounds? And he will inform them. It was in the house of those that love me, in the house of my family, my kin. They'll mourn for him. They'll mourn at the revelation, the discovery that he came, and they had failed to recognize him, their fathers. They'd rejected him. They'd been blinded. That begins a glorious new age, The kingdom age begins with the Lord returning. Here, more detail. Zechariah chapter 14. Behold, the day is coming for Yahweh, when the spoil taken from you will be divided among you. Indeed, I will gather all the nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city will be captured, the houses plundered, the women ravished, and half of the city will go forth in exile. Those left of the people will not be cut off from the city. Then Yahweh will go forth and fight against those nations as the day when he fights on a day of battle. And before reading further, I want you to hear Zechariah sees into the future, and he sees this event when the nations, plural, all the nations will gather against Jerusalem to battle. Not just a few, not just a league of nations, as has happened in Israel's past, but all the nations. That there is a world government, that there is a time ahead of us when nations will, in fact, surrender their sovereignty, will join the, kingdom of Antichrist, and they will march against Jerusalem, invading Jerusalem. Now, there's more detail about this in other prophecies, but looking straight to the day when half of the city will be captured. It's a dreadful day. The houses will be plundered, the women raped. Half of the city will go forth in exile. But those left of the people will not be cut off from the city. There will be survivors, half of the city, not cut off from the city. And then, as it is written here, then Yahweh will go forth and fight for them. Yahweh will go and fight against those nations, is when he fights in the day of battle. Look at this part in verse 4 and 4. And in that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, which is in front of Jerusalem on the east. The Mount of Olives will be split in its middle from the east to the west by a very large valley, so that half of the mountain will be moved toward the north, and the other half toward the south. And you will flee by the way, you will flee by the valley of my mountains, for the valley of the mountains will reach to Ezel. Indeed, you will flee just as you fled before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. Then Yahweh, my God, will come, and all the holy ones with him. It is sort of an ugly reality that prior to his coming to rescue, there will already be half of the city taken. There will be the suffering of women, as there has been throughout all the wars in history, but it will be the final war in history. It will be the final act of wrong and injustice and, by humans in the age of man, because it marks the end of the age of man and the beginning of the kingdom age. Now, consider this. The Lord himself, who left this world, according to the gospel writers, from the Mount of Olives, he took off from the Mount of Olives, and he will return to the very same place that he came from. Now, I personally don't see it, perhaps I don't see it exactly the way others do. Maybe there are some who see the Lord floating down as he merely ascended up till he was taken out of their sight. I believe he comes with velocity. That's the word, friends. Velocity. He is God who rides on the clouds. He's the creator of lightning. And I submit to you that the Son of God makes an impact, such impact on this earth at his impact point, the Mount of Olives. There is a split. The topography of the region, the whole world is affected. The topography of the region is rearranged. A great valley opens up. The Mount of Olives splits in two directions, north and south, opening up a valley east to west. A great valley. A great valley. Mountains will cease to be mountains. They will be made a plain by the impact of the Son of God, his feet. Yeshua, Yahweh, He is God, this one we call Jesus. In the day whose feet, Yahweh's feet will sit on the Mount of Olives. And the great escape route for the surviving Jews fleeing down that great valley that was just created, then Yahweh my God will come and all the holy ones with him, holy ones. All the holy ones, he will come and all his saints and all his angels. Verse 6, it will be in that day that there will be no light. The luminaries will dwindle, and it will be a unique day, which is known to Yahweh, neither day nor night. But it will be that at evening time there will be light. This is an exciting thing to read, it really is. There will be, in that day, the living waters will flow out of Jerusalem, half of them toward the eastern sea and the other half toward the western sea. And it will be in summer as well as in winter. Through all of Jerusalem's history, there in that semi-desert, they have, in fact, been dependent upon rain from one season to the other, rain and waters to be caught, and cisterns carved all over Jerusalem, water storage, even the great tunnel of Hezekiah's down to the water source, the spring of Gihon. I think about all the history of Jerusalem. Water has been such an issue. It ceases to be an issue when this great fissure opens, when this great valley, when the mountains are moved. Then, from the sources of God's great fountains in the deep, comes a fountain, a glorious fountain that becomes the headwater of the river. Ezekiel has a vision. He measures, he tries to describe it, he tries to cross it, its depth, it becomes a mighty river, and it's crystal clear. Yeah, I think it's Ezekiel 47. And he's been given a vision. Ezekiel had been given a vision. He wrote his vision. And this is that. This water source, there'll be a fountain. The waters will flow out of Jerusalem. And it will flush out. Again, the topography is changing. Even the Rift Valley, it changes. Jerusalem elevates. So I am assuming the Rift Valley, which is currently the lowest place on earth, also gets elevated with it, and there becomes this great river that flows from Jerusalem down into the Dead Sea in one direction, to the Mediterranean in the other. And its waters from the depths of the earth, its waters flush out all of the filth of the age of man, flushes out the Dead Sea, the Salt Sea. There'll be things living again. Men will fish. There will be the whole ecology, the ecological cycle will be restored. He is, after all, the creator who's engaged in all of this. All right, so Yahweh will be king over all the earth, verse 9 says. In that day, Yahweh will be the only one, and his name one. The land will be changed into a plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem. But Jerusalem will rise, and and inhabit its site from Benjamin's gate as far as the place of the first gate to the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananeel to the king's winepress. And the people will inhabit it, and there will no longer be anything devoted to destruction. For Jerusalem will be inhabited in security. There will be real peace. Real safety will happen. The topography changed, the mountains, according to this, south of Jerusalem will be leveled into a great plain. It is initially the valley created by this great fissure will be the route of escape, while the Lord himself deals with Antichrist and his armies. But the very valley, which is the route of escape for the surviving Jews, becomes then a great highway, a great plain, a great welcome to the nations to come to Jerusalem. During this time, verse 12 elaborates that now this will be the plague with which Yahweh will plague all the nations who have gone to war against Jerusalem. Their flesh will rot while they stand on their feet. Their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongue will rot in their mouth. Dreadful picture. But when the Lord comes to judge the nations who've gone to war, those armies, sounds like they will be dreadfully dealt with, it would seem. Now, people can imagine something like this. Modern readers read into that a nuclear, some kind of nuclear holocaust or a neutron bomb or some other dread thing of man. I personally don't believe it will be. In this instance, I believe it will be the word of God, the judgment of God. He says it, it happens. Supernatural power. And it will be in that day that abundant confusion from Yahweh will fall on them, and they will take hold of one another's hand, and the hand of one will go up against the hand of another. Judah also will fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the surrounding nations will be gathered, gold and silver and garments in great abundance. So there are three ways that when the Lord comes to rescue, there is this plague that they will, in fact, experience dreadful, like vaporization. Secondly, the very confusion whereby, as in ancient times, these armies turn on each other. And then thirdly, Judah itself fights. And those three forces come together. In verse 15, in the same way, the plague on the horse, mule, camel, the donkey, and all the cattle that will be in those camps will be like this plague. Then it will be that any who are left of all the nations that went against Jerusalem will go up from year to year to worship the King, Yahweh of hosts, and to celebrate the Feast of Booths. So the Hebrew feast instituted by God to the covenant people will be observed by the nations in the kingdom age. Man, think about this. This is a real irony that the animal sacrifices and the feasts and the sacrifices connected to those feasts will be observed as a way to commemorate what God did through Christ, the work of Christ. That these feasts once prophesied the work of Christ, now they memorialize and commemorate. And the nations, the survivors of those nations, will come every year. And look at this, verse 17 says, "It will be that whichever of the families of the earth does not go up to Jerusalem to worship the King, Yahweh of hosts, there will be no rain on them." No rain. God doesn't force people to come and worship, but if they don't come and worship, the rain does not come. In verse 18 it says, "And if the family of Egypt does not go up or enter, then no rain will fall on them. It will be the plague with which Yahweh plagues the nations who do not go up to celebrate the Feast of Booths." The Feast of Booths, the Feast of Tabernacles, I maintain it will be all the more then all about the fact that God tabernacled among us. As the Apostle John says it, and the Word became flesh and dwelt, literally, tabernacled among us. We beheld his glory, the glories of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth, Yahweh. He tented, tabernacled, he dwelt. Any of the families of the world, that's how they're described, the families, the nations that will not come, will not receive rain. God doesn't tell them you have to come. If you don't want to come, don't come. But you're not getting any rain. He is the creator. He is in charge of such things. You want to spend your years irrigating, pumping water. Apparently, that's an option. But no rain will come. It says here that and if the family of Egypt does not go up or enter, no rain will fall on them. Even Egypt, who historically, though they are a vast desert, could grow their crops because of the capacity to irrigate with the Nile. But even they will be dependent upon the rain. This will be the punishment of Egypt, verse 19 says, and the punishment of all the nations who do not go up to celebrate the Feast of Booths. In that day there will be inscribed on the bells of the horses, holy to Yahweh. This is a case where I really do hope that horses means horses. Maybe it's just an attempt by Zechariah to communicate something that he'd never seen, but just a reference to a transport vehicle. But I don't know if you're like me. I really do hope that in the kingdom age, we're riding horses, and the bells of the horses, and we'll have an inscription, holy to Yahweh. And the pots in the house of Yahweh will be like the bowls before the altar. Every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah will be holy to Yahweh of hosts. All who sacrifice will come and take of them and boil in them. And there will no longer be a Canaanite in the house of Yahweh of hosts in that day. There'll be no foreigner. There'll be no one unclean. There'll be nothing unclean. Everything becomes holy. That's just a little glimpse we have from Zechariah into this beautiful age, where Jerusalem becomes the capital of the world, the kingdom of Messiah. May such a day come soon. Bring such a day, Father, soon. Well, there's your study for today. We'll continue tomorrow as we'll begin Malachi tomorrow, Lord willing. Questions or comments can be sent to ccbangor.org. I'll do my best to answer, get back to you. Appreciate you taking the time. God's word, it is so important. It gives me hope, and I look forward with great anticipation to what God tells us will be. Grace and peace to you all.